I'm Johnny Scoville, and this is Chase the Heat. This is going to be an interesting ride. I was going to do Switzerland, but Switzerland can only do 30 minutes or 45. No, excuse me, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And I want to try to do an hour. So I'm just going to do, it's called Just Ride. So I assume it's just kind of a flat. I don't think it's going to go up and down. This is 13 million Scoville Omega Most Evil Tincture. It's from Tom Broom. Here's the problem. I haven't eaten anything because I can't eat before I do a long ride because it's too much in my stomach. So I might cramp about it from this. But I'm going to do 2 drops now. And then if I go for an hour at the 30-minute mark, I'll do another drop. All right, so here we go. Hold on. I just didn't want to get that in my eyes, which is good. I have this just in case. You know what I could do? I got an idea. I could do just 30 minutes and okay, we're doing 30 minutes in Switzerland. And as soon as it's over, I'm going to do 30 more. All right. Give me just a minute. Oh, that hot. Today on this ride, the first half of the ride, I'm going to tell funny Mama Scoville stories. I don't know how long it'll go. I have a lot of stories. Wow. I'm on a single road, like a path, like one car can fit on it, and a car just went by me. Like I was standing still, like there's no speed limit here. Okay, I'm getting under control with that tincture. Wow, is that hot? Everything is a hill here. Okay, so we're going to talk about Mama Scoville stories. Wow, is that hot? My first memory is of my mom. I have had asthma since youth. I mean, actually since birth. Because my first memory, and my mom says I must have been in a crib, but I remember her sitting by my bed or crib, whatever it was, like really concerned and trying to, and telling me to calm down. Because when you can't breathe, you get worked up, and she's trying to calm me down, so doing what she could, being a good mom. I was born in New York, okay? But we grew up in Vermont. And anybody who watches this, who's from Vermont, will tell you, you gotta be hardy to live there. It's just a big hill. You really have to be hard, but boy, is it scenic. It is the most beautiful. This is the most beautiful track or country so far that I biked in. Although New Zealand was very pretty. Oh, this is just way taxing on you physically. So, my mom is a very hardy woman. I'll tell you a funny story about how they moved to Vermont when I was young. From New York. My dad went to Vermont. There's a biker. Who is that? I'm about to pass. I see somebody. So, my dad was a sales guy. He went to Vermont. Excuse me. I had a gig. He had a really good gig he got in New Hampshire, Vermont, neighboring state. He found a house that he did. Oh, there's 2 bikers there. Was that 3? No, just 2. I'm gonna pass 2 people in just a second. Anyhow, my dad took this position in New Hampshire, 34 miles away. He saw a house. It was for sale. Came with a ton of land. There's 2 people on bikes, and they've got to be computer generated jobs. They've got like water things on their back. This dude's got a tent. Come on. He just looked right at me as I went by him. And I can't look back, so it's computer. Regardless, my dad buys this house on the spot. Life was different back then. The owner was selling it. My dad talked to the owner. The owner said to my dad, "What do you do?" He was one of the vice presidents of this company. He was okay. He goes, "I'll be the bank for you. Here's how much notice. Pay me every month. The house is yours." They did that. On a true story. I mean, signed paperwork, but that deal is crazy. Beautiful home, gorgeous home. At any rate, when my mom had never seen it, they moved there. She said, "I hate it." Imagine that, being a husband, bought a house, you're outside, you show up with your wife and she hates it. I guess she learned to love it. But one of my earlier memories of my mom, she was like Superwoman. I had, every family's got like the uncle that's not really uncle, but you call him uncle. Well, I had Uncle Phil and his wife Peggy. They were visiting from New York. We had kites. We bought kites. You know, like the kite. You hold the thing. They were just like a fishing pole, but in the sky with a, kite. It's like you're fishing with it. You kind of pull back and forth, and reel it out. Kites are fun. And we had kites. And I was a kid, stupid little kid. And I let go of the thing by accident. And it took off. And I remember my mom just, like she jumped into a phone booth or something. She ran down. It flew over the road into a pasture. My mom ran across the road, took a dog leg left and ran across the field. Gained on it just gained on it, caught it, and brought her back. I remember looking at her going, she can do anything. And when I was a little kid, we had a ton of land. The other side of our home was this gigantic barn. At one point, it was a big working farm. No longer working, just beautiful pastures and such. So I was a little kid once, and I left and I went across the road, went wandering around in the barn. She couldn't find me. And every parent has had a moment where your kid escapes you for a second. You panic for a moment. 2 of my kids did it with me. Actually, all 3 did. All 3 did. But she found me. In the front of our home, there's a big lilac bush. Beautiful, gorgeous lilac bush. Well, she picked a branch off it. I just got passed by a Grindelwald bus. And I mean like a city bus. What are you doing up here? Anyway, she whooped me. I never did that again. She was a trip. She was never mean to me. No, I needed it, trust me. Listen, you don't know the kid I was. We're going to talk about that. I have gone for, oh, it's not even time. I don't even know how long I've gone. This is terrible. Oh, it's a 30-minute thing. But usually there's a countdown and I don't see it, which is weird. Oh, there it is. I can see it now. It was in the clouds. Sorry. So, Mom was a trip. Oh, I feel bad for her. We got the lottery with parents. Had the greatest dad in the world, great mom. They lost the lottery with their sons. We got together the second half of the game, or at least the fourth quarter. But, man, that first half put her through a lot, you know. In high school, I was always making the honor roll was a really important thing. I always seemed to miss it. By 1 class or 2 classes. And I had a lot of gimmies. Because I was a great athlete. And it was never spoken. But you know, they cut you slack, you know. 20 minutes or 10 minutes in, traveled 3 miles. 86 calories. It's just so uphill. So anyway, where I disappointed them in academically, Sister Scoville, my older sister, was a great student. Tommy and I, not so much, but we were great athletes. I'm cramping. I'm cramping from the tincture. Wow. So before I go to the next one, let's talk about the 3 times my kids escaped me. Oh, I'm cramping. First one was my oldest son. We lived in Round Rock. I was running a dating service. Lived in a beautiful home. I was banking. I was making a lot of money then. Lived in a beautiful home in a gated community. My neighbor was Nolan Ryan's sister. Oh, my stomach. So anyway, my son was probably 3. I was working like 7 days a week. I mean that. I'd get like 1 day off a month. When I first took the position, I worked 96 days in a row without a day off. If you see this, Ted, for like every dollar I earn, I probably owe you 10 cents because you taught me a lot. But you were a terrible boss. At any rate, I was working too much, and one day I get home, put the kid to bed. We only had 1 at the time. Oh, so he was about almost 4. My wife was pregnant, I think. Did we already have Johnny Jr.? No, we only had 1. She must have been pregnant with Johnny Jr. Yeah, she was. So, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in bed. I gotta get up early and go to work. The doorbell rings at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I go to the door, and there's this older woman holding my son's hand. And I don't sleep, I sleep naked. Sorry, I just do. I can't sleep with clothes on. Even when I was a kid, they put pajamas on, I wake up nude, you know? It's just the way I am. So anyway, I have a towel around my waist, and this older woman's holding my son's hand. And she says, "Is this your son?" And I grabbed him really quick. I said, "Yeah, what's going on? What is happening?" And she said, "He knocked on my door." I said, "Wow." I said, "Thank you so much. Where do you live?" She told me it was a couple of houses away, you know. Thank God we live in a gated community. What freaked me out was, anyway, so I thanked her, shut the door. I looked at my son. You know what he did? He put a box on top of a box, climbed up to unlock the door to get out. There were boxes at the door, like a chimp getting up in the banana. Oh, my stomach. I'm earning this one. Anyway, shut the door. I said, "Buddy, I love you more than anything." I said, "But I'm going to give you a spanking now for what you just did because it was very dangerous. And you're going to remember it for the rest of your life." I gave him a spanking. And I never really spanked my kids, but he never went out again. I cried more than he did. Oh my gosh, it was scary. The next day, at work, I bought a big gift basket of Godiva. I mean, there was coffee in there, chocolate. It was this big basket. And I went to the woman's house when I came home from work that day. I knocked on her door. I just want to thank you so much for saving our son. What warped my noodle was I wondered how long he wandered around. Where'd he go? How many houses did he knock on? He must have gotten a lot. He's on the spectrum, so it was just a scary, scary thing. He's a computer specialist. You wouldn't believe it. He's a genius. Anyhow, I gave the gift basket to the woman. I said, "Thank you so much." She goes, "Oh, you know what? Don't worry about it. It happened one day last week." I said, what? I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "A different little kid in the neighborhood, in the middle of the night, knocked on my door." I'm like, "What are you?" Very careful of our kids, you know. It was weird. It's a great neighborhood. One day, Thanksgiving Day, excuse me, I look outside, I don't know what year it was. Probably figured it out because my son was 4. Anyhow, my oldest. I look outside on Thanksgiving Day, and Nolan Ryan is outside throwing a baseball with who I have to assume was his sister or something. I almost had a heart attack. So I got my baseball. I couldn't find my baseball glove. By the time I found my baseball glove, I went outside. They were inside. That was pretty cool. The second kid who escaped was my daughter, my little girl. She scored 513 on her MCAT. She's going to graduate pre-med. And I'm telling you a story that scared the pants off me when she was a baby. She must have been 2. Couldn't find her. And I'm not an absentee parent. I'm not the helicopter parent who hovers, but I mean, I know where my kids are, but I let them have fun, you know. Couldn't find her anywhere. Went through her room, went through the whole house. It was a big house. Went through the room again. My wife was home, my kid's mom. Together, we're panicking. Went to the park, went back to the park, was on the phone. I think she was on the phone calling the police. She must have been. I go back up to her room again. I didn't look under her bed. I look under her bed and she's sleeping like a little angel. graduates in May. You blink, and that's what happens. All right, third kid, Johnny Jr. I was running a business. Tommy and I were working. I was making probably some of the most money I've ever made. Like I was making like $3,000 a week. I was really banking. I was driving a 911, gorgeous white 911. Anyhow, he loved that car. And one day, in the middle of the night, we couldn't find him. I got up. And when you're a dad, when you get up, if you got kids like my kids are, if you get up to go to the bathroom or something, you hear something, you're going to comb the house, go to every room, you know? Check the doors, that's what you do. Go to his room, and he's not in his bed. Turn the lights on, and the whole house, can't find him anywhere. I got in the garage. He's standing on the front seat of my Porsche, holding onto the steering wheel, doing this, pretending he's driving. He fell in love with that car. He really, really loved that car. Every time we went for a ride in it, he went berserk. So that's when I lost my kids. Let's go back to Mama Scoville. Learned how to ski when I was a kid. Got 11 minutes left in the first 30, and this hill has not stopped. The second I learned how to walk, by the way, it's a Chase to Eat shirt. If you didn't know, these are available on the johnnyscoville.com. I haven't worn this shirt in a minute, but here it is. Anyway, the second I learned how to walk, and I mean the minute, they put skis on me when I was 2. So I was skiing since, I don't remember ever not being able to ski, you know, just what I did. They did it to Tommy, they did it to Sister Scoville. The minute we could walk, they put skis on us. And you know why? They love skiing. And living in Vermont, oh man, some great places to ski. So, we were skiing at a resort one day. And there's a chairlift. You know how those work? You see them? I don't know how old I was. I was probably 6. We get in the chairlift, it takes off, starts to gain altitude. At about, it was probably only 10 or 15 feet. She slipped out, trying to reach over to do something for me. Slipped out and fell out of the chair. And I waited a nanosecond. I just said, jumped out, bailed out. I was probably 15 feet. It felt like 100. But it never even crossed my mind to continue on without her. She bailed. I'll bail. It's a funny story. She was a trip. We were athletes. She was a sports mom. A lot of you watching this have been to basketball games. High school basketball games. Because your kids played, nephews, grandkids, neighbor, or you just happened to see one. I played every sport. That wasn't one of my good ones. I was better than average, but that wasn't my sport. I did it to keep in shape for tennis in the spring. However, I'm playing, this is a hill. In about 8 minutes and 33 seconds, I'm going to do another drop of tincture. Start another 30 minutes. We're going to do an hour in Switzerland today. So, I'm playing basketball. I'm on the varsity team. I'm the guy who, I was a bench warmer for basketball. I played every game, but I wasn't a starter. Like I said, I did that to stay in shape. That and skiing. At any rate, one day I'm playing, and I'm inbounding the ball. That means is, for those who don't know, if I'm telling you something you know, I apologize. The person that's inbounding the ball is handed the ball by the ref. He has to throw it, bounce it, throw it to one of his own teammates and advance the ball up the court. You can't just walk across and start dribbling. You have to throw it. It's called inbounding the ball. So ref hands me the ball. Now, what happens typically is you'll have a guy defending that guy, especially in high school if it's a one-on-one defense. And he's doing this, kicking his feet to the side, trying to stop whatever you're doing. My mom is in the stands. And unfortunately for this moment, she was right behind me. She stands up and yells in this Mama Scoville voice, "You get away from my son." I swear it's a true story. You could hear like 500 people all giggle at the same time. This is a bad hill. I just watched 2 people turn around. Like stop and turn around. That's just for effect. It's a computer generated thing. It's gotta be. She was funny. Here's another good story. Football. My last game. Now, here's the deal. If you've never played football, this is going to mean different things to different people. Hopefully, it's an entertaining story. If you played football and you went on to play college, it'll still be an entertaining story. But if you really love football and you only played high school because there wasn't a college football career waiting, and it was your last game, this will have more impact on you. I hope there are people like that watching. So, it's my last football game ever. And it happens to be a home game. You know what? I lied to you. It was the last home game. There was one more game following that in a different school. But this was the last home game. So it's a big deal. I'm in the locker room at halftime. And I don't remember what the score was. I just remember the coach. This is at a time when Rocky was big. So in the locker room, while we were sitting there, he would sit there. No one would talk. No one would say a word. He'd say, "No farting around. Think about your job. Go through in your head. What's your job today?" And we would sit there and just mentally go through our head. While the Rocky soundtrack was playing. It's wicked intense. It's a very heavy moment. So we're all listening to the music, and when they went over to the box and turned the music off, it means Coach was taking the mic. He was going to take the stage in front of us, talk to us. And we were like, I'm telling you, it's like he had the key to the future. We were hanging on his every word. So he turned the music off. He stands in front of us, silent. The door behind him, which leads to the field, it cracks open. And my mom walks in. She goes, "Johnny, it's cold. Can I wear your jacket?" And my coach goes, "Don't make her wait. Get your jacket." And I was like, "Mom." Everybody was just like, "Oh." But that's my mom. 2 rides ago, I'm riding. She opens the door and goes, "You still riding?" I love my mom. When we were kids, I remember she would say she was 5'2". Papa Scoville was 6'4". She used to joke and say she married my dad to give us a fighting chance with size. But my grandfather's nickname for her was Little Beastie. But it's a trip of a woman. But when we got to she was 5'2", and on the back of my door, I was worried about height. I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to grow. I don't know if other kids do this, but when you have kids that you hang with that are taller than you when you're little, you start worrying about stuff like that. So I had a ruler, and I marked 1 foot, 2 foot on the back of my door in my closet. And I'm telling you, like every day practically. You can see where I remember when I got to 5'2", standing in the kitchen with my mom, looking at her going, "You're not 5'2". I am. It was funny. But I remember saying, I remember once I said, it was summertime, I said, I'm going out. And she says, you're not going out. My dad wasn't home. My eyes are burning right now. I got tincture on my fingers, and my eyes are burning. She said, you're not going out. And stood in front of me, and I picked her up, moved to the side, and put her down, and walked out. God bless her. Here's the thing. She's put up with so much. When I went to college, freshman year, we're driving up there, and she says to me, in the car as we're driving to college, it was like a 2.5 hour drive when I was in college and they were home. So it wasn't like they were going to drop in on me. But while we're driving to school, it was a big university. She says to me, and these are the words she used, I forbid you to join a fraternity. And what she didn't realize is that I actually picked the dorm I picked, which was a terrible dorm that nobody would ever choose to pick. But I picked it because it was 100 yards from the fraternity that I was planning on joining. So in the car, driving to school, she says, I forbid you to join the fraternity. And I remember saying to her, man, forbid. It's a wicked heavy word, you know. How about I don't want you to, or think about it before you do it. I forbid you, she said. So I got to the university and joined the fraternity. First rush of the year, I went through it, became a brother. To protect the guilty, I'm not going to say the name of the fraternity. However, I never told them I was rushing, which was crazy. Not telling them, the whole rushing thing was insane. And get some water here for a second. Oh no, I have 10 more seconds. I gotta do another drop of tincture. Hang on. Okay, training completed. I went 15 miles, burned 260 calories, finish. All right, so let's go back. Let's go to Switzerland again. Do one more drop of tincture. I don't want this in my eyes. My sweat, baby. Oh. And we just started 30 more. So we're gonna do an hour in the Alps today. We're in Switzerland. My eyes are burning. My mouth is on fire. The water is there. Oh. The cramps have stopped, by the way, or I would have done that other drop. But I did cramp one round. My eyes are burning. So, I remember the week I became a brother. Ceremonies were over. I'm officially a brother in this fraternity. I don't know. I know what it was. I was drinking. I'm sober now, people. Anybody watching this? I'm sober. If you want to hear my story, get a bus pass. Hit the tab that says join. It's $4.99 a month. My whole story's there. All the awful, dirty details. But I'm sure I had a couple. And that's what possessed me to do this. I'm keeping my eyes shut to keep the sweat out of it because my sweat burns right now. So I called and my mom answered the phone. And in one of my not so finer moments, I said, Mom, I'm a brother. And she said, I know, he's standing right here. You want to talk to him? I said, I'm a brother in a fraternity house, Mom. She just said, here's your father. Dished the phone on to my dad, who gave it to me. Because I did something she forbid. The next day we talked. He's like, tell me about it. He was much cooler about it than she was. But he had to make it look good. Oh, my eyes. So, come home from freshman year. While I was home freshman year, I knew a buddy who had a coffin on his backyard. I told this story a ton of times too, but he bought the coffin from a funeral home that was going on. I'm on fire right now. Not from the heat of the sun, but my whole face burns. But he bought this coffin, which was a display model at a funeral home that went out of business. I guess people weren't dying fast enough. At any rate, this coffin was for a plus-size dude. He bought it to use it for a prank on this is a hill, people. Use it bought it to use it as a prank for Halloween. Well, when Halloween came and went, he said, I guess neighbors were calling the police on it. It was creepy to have a coffin on your front, your deck of your house. So he said, dude, you got a truck? If you want that coffin, if you can come take it, you can have it. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah. I'm done. What kid my age wouldn't have said yes to that? I'm losing weight, people. So, picked the coffin up, went home with it. My mom comes out, goes, what is that? I said, it's a coffin, Mom. She says, there's nothing in it. I said, it's mahogany, brass handles, beautiful, pink velvet interior. Purple, actually. Actually, more like, not purple, more like burgundy. So I said, she goes, what are you doing with it? I said, I'm gonna use it as a dresser at college. She goes, talk to your father. He wasn't home yet. He got home, he's like, coffin? It's pretty cool, where'd you get that? My mom did not like that. Passing 3 more bikers. Oh, you know what? No, it's 2 more. This is a repeat. It's the same thing. All right, so I just did, remember I told you, if you watched the first half, it came around a corner, saw 2 bikers, thought it was 3 for a second, it became 2. I just passed them, and the same guy looked back at me. So in this mode, they're all computer generated. At any rate, I took that coffin to college. Now, we're driving to college sophomore year. By the way, when I told her that I was a brother, she said, I forbid you to move into it. I think I might have even said, did the forbidding thing work last time? So the way it worked at this college is you would put your name in a lottery and they would determine where you live. I never put my name in the lottery because I was a brother in a fraternity house and I was going to live there. A whole lot cheaper. And I might have had a little bit more fun there. So we're driving to college. In the truck is everything that I'm taking to college with me. Most of it is inside the coffin. So for the most part, it just looks like I'm hauling the coffin. And on the way, it's a big university. Every car was loaded with stuff, people honking horns. And they kept driving by us seeing a coffin, like, what in the world? So I get there, she goes, we're halfway there. She goes, what dorm are you in? We haven't talked about that. And there was this pause. It was a 2-seater truck. The rest of my family was in a van ahead of us because they all wanted to come drop me off, and it wasn't really that far. So I said, I'm living in the fraternity house. I don't think she said a whole lot for the rest of the trip. We got to the fraternity house, and the way that it worked is, it was a first come, first serve. During the weekend to move in, if you were the first dude there, you picked the room you wanted. I was like one of the last guys there. And what ended up happening is, if you had junk in your room, when you picked that room, you just took that junk and threw it in the room next to you. And if you took the room next to them, you took all that junk and threw it in the room next to that. So by the time I got there, all the junk from all the rooms, from guys that previously lived there, was all in my room. And it was small. The room was small. And so it took a little while to move everything out. And my mom was freaking out. It was rough. She goes, "There's no bed." I said, and I didn't plan it. I said, "Mom, I'll sleep in the coffin." She goes, "You're not sleeping in a coffin." I said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "It'll be comfortable." So I threw everything that was in the room out, took it to the dumpster, because that was my job, since I was the last guy on the totem pole. I bought a inflatable blow-up air mattress, one of the single jobs for one person. It was just the perfect fit for the inside of this coffin. I probably went through 4 or 5 of them, because eventually they pop and leak and I'd get a new one. I slept in the coffin for 2 years. I just got passed by that truck again. So she stopped forbidding me to do things after that. But she, you know, she's a saint, because all the stuff we did in college, like I got, you know, I was in a fraternity house. Drank all the time. I got into fights a lot. One day I was walking home from a party, and 2 guys were walking by me on campus. And they went out of their way to bump me. If it was one-on-one, I would have kind of said, "Hey." But there were 2 of them, so I tried to kind of just move by it and let it go. And you know, they turned around and came at me. I hit the first one, because my dad always said, if you're ever going to get into a fight, you're going to know when it happens. When you know that it's going to happen, pull the trigger, palms down, and follow through. I hit the first one really hard, and I didn't look at the second one, and he hit me, and I woke up later, and they tuned me up pretty good. It was the first time I'd ever been kicked in a fight. And they kicked me in the ribs, and I didn't feel it when it was happening at all. I was out like a light. The guy hit me, I was out big time. But they tuned me up. Anyhow, I looked like I got hit by a car. And hold on, pardon me, look that way. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Anyway, the next day, I get a phone call from my dad. "Whoa, what's up, Dad?" He goes, "What happened to you?" I said, JohnnyScoville.com. He goes, "What happened to you?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You got beat up?" I said, "We should see what one of them looks like. One of them probably looks fine. One of them I left a mark on." I said, "How did you hear about that?" It's a weird thing. It's the biggest university in the state. Everybody in the town that I knew that went to, most people that went on to college went there. I had people dropping dimes on me, calling my dad. "Your son's fighting, he's drinking all the time. He got into a fight at the Last Chance Saloon. He got beat up." I mean, so my mom and dad put up with a lot, you know. I feel bad. That's why I decided, it's really funny. I remember, and this hit me. I remember it hitting me. After I had kids, my kids would lie to me. I know when they're lying to me. And I remember the moment it hit. Like, every time I lied to my mom and my dad, they knew I was lying. So I decided right then and there, doesn't ever change, I assume. So I don't lie. I really don't lie. I don't lie. I certainly would never lie to my mom. She'd smell like that. She'd smell that like a fart in a car. But they put up with a lot, you know? You know, and then, you know, my brother. You know, here's the thing. I never robbed banks. My brother might have done that. Went to jail for it. But just about every other bad thing he ever did, I was beside him doing it. I just didn't get caught. So, and I feel terrible about that. There was, like, every day he was in jail, I felt so guilty. No, I had nothing to do with the bank robbery jobs, I swear. But what my mom and dad have gone through. Now, the bright shining star of this whole thing is that it's a testimony. And your testimony isn't what are all the terrible things you did. Your testimony is, what are you doing now? And now I'm trying to be a good guy, like Tommy. Like, I think when you go to jail, you go to prison for anything, you come out one of two ways. You come out worse, or you come out better. And Tommy came out a better man. Can I have some water? From my lifeboat thermos. Ah. 16 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and I will have done an hour. And I have not done an hour on a bike since I got this. The first time I did it, might have been a bit ambitious, but I did 30 minutes. And I did them here. First ride I ever did was in Switzerland. Probably not a good idea. But I think this is my 11th or 12th ride on this thing. I don't know how many miles I've gone. I haven't kept track. I'm sure there's a way to figure it out here. I'm keeping my eyes shut because the sweat that's coming out of my skin is loaded with capsaicin. And if I open my eyes and the sweat gets in my eyes, it isn't like sweat. It's capsaicin. So I'm going to keep my eyes shut for just a while. Keep telling you about Mama Scoville. Here's the funny thing. There's 100 times my mom, my dad should have done the old Pontius Pilate deal and washed their hands of us. The list is so long of all the terrible things I did. You know, when you get sober, you think about those things. But, like I said, I'm sober now. I haven't done any hard drugs in 14 years, I think. I didn't put a date on that. I just stopped using. In April, it'll be 5 years without alcohol, and the only buzz I get is from tincture, like you saw me do today, capsaicin. And this bike working out. Now, I need to, oh, you know, let's talk some more about my mom, though. 'Cause you know what? It's kind of interesting. You have to know that I was kind of like, you know, when my dad was alive for a lot of years, he referred to my brother and I as Frank and Jesse. He would do it, he didn't even know the half of it. That's why it was kind of funny when he would do it. How can he say, hey, Frank, where's your brother Jesse? Anyhow, my dad lived long enough to see my brother not just quit drugs, but be a champion for helping people get sober. He was on the phone this morning. I wish you all could have heard the phone call. Helping somebody who's in a jam. The time he took with this person. Anyhow, he's a champion in my head. But my dad lived long enough to see my brother come out rehabilitated and help people. He saw this channel become a success. He saw himself appear on Netflix. I'm sure he's smiling down because he appears 3 different clips of him in Super Hots. I'm cramping again. Oh no. You know what's making it cramp? drinking all that water is moving the capsaicin that I took in the second drop into my gut, and I am cramping right now big time. So I'm gonna sit like this for a minute and ride if you guys don't mind. My cadence is down around 70, but I'm still gonna work out. I'm just in pain. So anyway, Tommy and I lived, was kind of a gangster for a long time. I did a lot of bad things. So, kind of reminds me, was it Clem from Joe Dirt? It's a great movie. He's in the witness relocation program. Can't remember the actor's name right now. It'll come to me. But he doesn't want to be famous. He saves someone's kid's life in the lab, and all of a sudden he's famous. Well, I lived most of my life doing things that you wouldn't want people knowing who you are. Now, I'm in the spot where everywhere I go, I get recognized. Everywhere I go, I got recognized for when Chase the Heat was happening. I mean, it'll always happen because I'm not going to ever stop doing this. But now with Netflix and the Hulu thing, it's weird. Not complaining, just saying it's weird. So now my mom and Tommy